Good morning and welcome to a beautiful day in Pickett, Wisconsin. It is Monday, September 29th, 2025. Listen. You can hear the crickets. The sound of fall is here. It's 65 degrees, bright sunshine, clear skies, and just calm winds. It's just spectacular. On the stand today, I've got an Enya R120 cycle engine that I'm going to run for the first time. This is the engine that has been listed for sale on several places on Facebook Marketplace and on a video. And this is the first time, because of the fact that nobody seems too interested in this engine, I figured, well, it's a beautiful day, why don't I just put it on the stand and run it? And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to do a run with this engine now. I did fire it up in the garage real quickly, and it popped off on the first flip. I haven't really done any tuning. I set the valve lash today, and I set the air bleed screw to 50% covering the hole, and I've got the high-speed needle set to 2.5 turns open from fully closed. And aside from that, right now I've got 3 different props I brought. This one is a Zor Wood 17.6. I've got an APC 16.8 and an APC 15.6 that I might throw on here as well, just to make things more interesting. I've got an Enya number 3 plug, and the fuel I'm running is probably closer to 7 to 8% nitro. I had about a half a quart of 15% fuel. I added a little bit more, and then I just dumped the rest 80-20. So it's about, we'll say, 8% nitro fuel. So with that said, let's fire this beautiful engine up. Now I am going to hand start this thing just because I don't have a spinner that will go on here. So let me get my glove here ready. And it's already at full throttle, so I'm going to prime it. And it takes a prime quite nicely. In fact, it's very primed. Let's make sure we're not too primed. Let's find a good starting speed. Get my glove on. And give it a whirl if I can find a place to clip this. Oh, here. Okay, I had to stop it there because for the first time I've had an issue with my Ron Sexton stand here, and I lost a screw holding the throttle. So let me try and see if I can retrieve that real quick, and we'll fire this thing up again. And yes, I am intentionally not running muffler pressure at this moment, just to see how it runs. Okay, well, so without the screw that holds it in there, I'm screwed. I'm just going to have to do this manually like that and remember that. So let's fire this thing up one more time. See if we can continue our run with this technical difficulty. That thing was on there when I was testing it this morning, and somehow in transit it came off. So that's full throttle. We don't want to start it like that. Okay, I'm going to change props on here now since I think we got this pretty well tuned in here. I did a little bit of adjustment on the throttle stop screw to get the idle speed right. And I did a small amount of adjustment on the air bleed carb. I leaned it just a hair, but Enya carbs are really notorious for being susceptible to humidity conditions. This has got a lot of condensation on this. It's not humid at all, but I mean, it's one of those things where it's just kind of, they can be a little tricky to set based on the humidity. And like I said on several other Enya 4-stroke videos, you're not going to get one of those like super instantaneous transitions with a air bleed carb on an Enya engine. You just have to accept the fact that you're going to transition it a little bit slower, but it's always going to just run and purr like a kitten. So let's swap props and do another run. Okay, so now I've got the APC 15.6 installed on here, and the compression on this engine is really coming up now. That really kind of bums me out about losing that screw on that. Throttle arm, I'm going to have to go and find one now. I don't typically have screws on hand. Oh, where's my glove? I need my glove. Did I not get it primed enough this time? Apparently not. Let's prime it. Okay, she likes to be pretty wet, I guess. It's acting like my eye starter isn't glowing now. Pretty sure I didn't blow the plug. I'm not even feeling a bump. Yeah, there's a bump. Okay, it bumped. My glow starter is good. Let's do... Maybe it's just not wet enough. It's interesting that it would hand start so easily with that larger prop, and now it's not. Okay, I stopped it there just because I didn't feel like sitting here and messing with the idle set screw or the throttle stop screw for each different prop. Seldom do I ever see a need for continuously changing the throttle stop screw based on a prop, but this thing really seemed like, because of the size of the prop, it was idling a lot faster, and then of course the mixture wasn't exactly right, so I didn't want to mess with that too much. Anyway, it's running quite lovely. I personally would never put a prop this small on it. I just don't like that. I think it was sounding really good with the 17.6. The 16.8 APC I'll put on next is basically about the same load as the 17.6, so we'll see what kind of RPM and idles we get with that. But otherwise, right now, I kind of like the 17.6 better, and I wish I'd have brought a larger one even. So I don't know if you're noticing, there's exhaust coming out of this header pipe and the end of the muffler here. I didn't realize that there was a hole. Somebody had drilled a hole in the exhaust header, so one of the things I'm probably going to do when I take this off the stand is plug that with some JB weld, or see if I can I don't want to put a screw in it. I'll just plug it with some JB weld so that that's not coming out there. Okay, so here's the final run here, and I'm going to be using the 16.8 APC prop. Apparently, when I suck the fuel out of here, it really is it? Oh, that's closed throttle. That's why it's not sucking prime. It really needs. Ooh, wow, yeah. It needs to be pretty wet apparently for fueling up. So I've mentioned that in several other videos, that some engines like it wet, some don't like it so wet. This one seems to like it wet. How that totally changed the way the engine wants to run. Okay, so there you have it, just a phenomenal running engine. That's almost an oxymoron. Phenomenal running engine and Enya. They all are phenomenal running engines, but this one is really a nice running engine. So, I don't know if this particular run video doesn't spark somebody to want to purchase this engine. That's not a problem. I have no problem keeping this because this is a sweet engine. I love the fact that it loves to hand start. I love the fact that it's got really massive compression. And even though I mentioned that there's a hole in this header, I actually kind of like that too, because A, it looks cool to have more exhaust coming out, but it seemed like when I put my finger up here with the glove, it sounded like it changed the way the engine was operating a little bit. And then that short time that I did put a pressure line on here, completely changed it. So I mean, so here's the thing with four-stroke engines in general. You don't necessarily have to run tank pressure on a four-stroke engine, and this is a question that came up in a comment of a video just recently. Because if you look back at, like, say, the original OS-120, OS-120 engine that had the split rockers, those engines were, they came with a header, just a header, OS FS90, 61. All of those just came with a header. Now, eventually they started adding silencers or pressure adapters, but it wasn't necessary. Even the older Enyas, the 80, the 46 4-cycle, 53, they don't have to, I mean, when they were originally set, put into production, they just had a header, and I like running them that way because they sound so cool. So you don't necessarily need tank pressure. However, if you choose to run it like I did without tank pressure and tune the engine, and then you say, I want to go and run tank pressure, expect to have to retune the engine because it does impact the way the tuning of the engine operates, both low speed, probably maybe not so much idle speed, I wouldn't think, but definitely low speed setting and high speed for sure, because it changes the parameters of the fuel going into the engine. But I mean, this engine is just phenomenal. It's just beautiful. And I still think that I like it it was okay with this prop. I like the 17.6. I'd like to maybe even try it with an even bigger prop, just because I think it sounds so cool. And I don't know if you're going to be able to pick up on it. I've got two cameras going today. When I was standing here where this camera is, I was hearing an interesting different sound that the props were putting off, and it sounded really cool. So when I go to compile this video, I'll be adding clips from both cameras, obviously, but when I do each camera, it'll be that sound, the audio will be that sound coming from that camera, not just the sound coming from the primary camera. Because the two cameras pick up sound completely different. But today's such a beautiful, calm day that it's not going to be necessary. I didn't really need the wind buffer on my mic that I've put on here, but I always have it on there. So I may actually have to increase the amplitude or the loudness of the audio on that, because that buffer will act as a little bit of an attenuator. But I mean, enough of the technical stuff. This was a great run. This is a great engine, and you know, if I have to keep this for years and years, I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. So hope you enjoyed watching.